Welcome to your algebra recording for the week. It is the week of February 21st. It's also week 7. So for our warm-up question, what I want you to do is I want you to log into Schoology if you're not already there. And then I want you to access Edgenuity by going through one of the Edgenuity slides in Schoology. And I want you to take a look at how you're doing in Edgenuity. So the two things I want you to pay attention to is where is your current progress at? Progress. And what is your actual grade? How are you doing overall on all the assignments? So I want you to focus on these things because Edgenuity is a majority of your grade. Edgenuity makes up a big portion of your grade. So I want you to spend some time right now checking to see where your progress is at and what your actual grade in the class is. And I want you to write these two things down for me because you will have to send this information to me. So click on pause and find that information, write it down in your math notebook. And when you found that information, come on back and we will continue on. All right, so this week and in this recording today, we are going to look at two-way tables and also relative frequencies and associations. So going to take a look at two-way tables, and we're about to see what an example of a two-way table is. Are you ready? Here we go. So a two-way table is a table that's going to deal with two variables. Two sets of variables. We can refer to those as two categorical variables. So if we're comparing two things. So if we look at this table below that is in fact a two-way table, we can see that we're comparing, let's actually first look at our two-way table and the question asked. So in this two-way table below, the survey question was, if you could have a new vehicle, would you want a sports utility vehicle, which we refer to as SUV, or a sports car? So we were asked a group of people, if you could have a new vehicle, would you want a sports car or a SUV? And we recorded our answers below in this two-way table. So you can see our two sets of categorical variables are the type of car, sports car or SUV, and then out of the people we asked whether they were male or female. So we're comparing those two sets of data. And then we have the frequency that each male or female chose sports car or SUV. So we've got the frequency is the number of times people would choose one or the other. So frequency, the number of times something happens. So these tables, two-way tables, will examine the relationship between two categorical variables, and they are especially important because they often are used to analyze survey results. So they're a great way to analyze survey results. So let's dive a little bit further and talk about two types of frequency. Two types of frequency. So the first type of frequency that you're going to see this week, let's do it in purple, is joint frequency. Joint frequency. And this is the data in the body of the table. So in this table, I'm going to erase this highlighted stuff so that we can focus on the joint frequency and which numbers those are. Let's do here. So that would be these numbers right here. Like I said, the data that's in the body of the table. That is our joint frequency. We also have another type of frequency, and let's do that in green, which we call the marginal frequencies. So this is important information. Please write this down in your math notebook. It will help you this week. So marginal frequencies are the totals or the sums. So the marginal frequency, think totals. So it's the sums of the columns and rows. And we're going to look at this, how it's used in this two-way table below. So let's find some of the marginal frequencies here. So again, marginal frequencies is all about the totals. So I'm adding totals for both rows and columns. So first, let's talk about the let's do the rows. Let's talk about the row totals. So we've got males. So how many total males were surveyed? Well, we would add the 5 plus the 7 in that first row to get 12. So 12 males were surveyed. What about females? What's the total number of females? Well, we're going to add 9 plus 4 to get a total of 13 females were surveyed. We can also find the totals for the column. So how many people chose SUVs? Well, we would add 5 plus 9 and get a total of 14. Then how many people chose sports cars? 7 plus 4 is 11. And then we have a grand total. If we add the total of our columns and the total of our rows, we should get the same number for our grand total. And this total right here is going to be the total number of people surveyed. So 12 plus 13 equals 25. We should get the same total when we add our row totals, which would be 14 plus 11, which is 25. So it's another good way to check your math and make sure you did everything correctly. So the total number of people surveyed would be 25 people. We also have the total number of males, the total number of females, the total number that chose SUVs, and the total number of people who chose sports cars. So all those totals are examples of the marginal frequencies. So again, marginal frequencies really focuses on the total of our columns and our rows. So all this right here, all that totals, those are marginal frequencies. So again, the joint frequency is all the entries in the body of our table. This is our joint frequencies. And then the totals, those are our marginal frequencies. Those are our marginal frequencies. So take a moment, if you have not written in your notebook the difference between marginal frequencies and joint frequencies. Having this table in your notebook and outlining like I did in a different color, so that your eyes immediately can see, oh, the stuff in the green is our marginal frequencies, and the stuff here highlighted in the purple is our joint frequency. That's a great way to take notes. So if you need more time, go ahead and click pause, because I am going on to the next slide. All right, so on the previous slide, we looked at joint frequencies and marginal frequencies. Well, look closely at these two terms now on this slide, where I have joint relative frequencies, marginal relative frequencies. Do you see a word that is in these two vocab words that was not a part of the vocab words on the previous slide? Well, I see relative and I see relative. The term relative used twice. I see joint relative frequencies and marginal relative frequencies. So the term relative is added. It's added here. And the term relative really is a way for us to focus on the percentages or ratios of each value. So we know that joint relative frequencies are all the entries that are the body of our table, and then the marginal frequencies focus on the totals, but now we're adding relative in here. So relative is going to allow us to see the ratios or percentages of each entry. So to find percentages or ratios, we know it's part of a whole. That's what a ratio is, and a percentage is part of a whole. So we're going to find the percentage and decimal, because we can go from a fraction to a decimal to a percentage. So we're going to find the relative frequencies of each entry, starting with the joint relative frequencies. So in order to find the joint relative frequency, we're going to take the value in each category and divide it by the total number of values. So that would be the total number of people surveyed. And remember, on the previous slide, we found the total number of people surveyed was 25, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to start with finding the joint relative frequencies by taking the value in each category. So here, if we want to find the relative joint frequency of males who chose SUVs, we're going to take 5 and divide it by 25, because that's the total number of people surveyed. When we take 5 and divide it by 25, we're going to get a decimal. So enter in your calculator 5 divided by 25, and you'll get 0.2. So I just grabbed my calculator and typed in 5 divided by 25. And then I can move my decimal 2 places to the right to get the percentage, which would be 20%. We're going to do this for each entry of our joint frequencies. So how about sports cars? Males who chose sports cars, we would take 7, divide it by 25, enter that in your calculator to get the decimal. I got 0.28 when I did that, and then I move my decimal 2 places to the right, and I get 28%. So let's just look what we've got written in these 2 entries. So I have a ratio. I divided those 2 numbers to get my decimal, and then I moved my decimal 2 places to the right to get the percentage. So we can express the joint relative frequency as a ratio, a decimal, or a percentage. So you can see that. So go ahead and try to do the females now for SUVs and sports cars. Find the joint relative frequency for females for SUVs and sports cars. I want you to try this on your own. So go ahead and click pause, and then when you're done and you're ready to check your work with mine, go ahead and click play. So we're going to do the same thing. So 9 divided by the total number of people surveyed, which is 25. Type in my calculator 9 divided by 25, and I get 0.36. When I move that decimal 2 places to the right, that gives me my percentage as 36%. Same thing here, 4 divided by 25. 4 divided by 25 is 16.16, which is 16%. So these are our joint relative frequencies. We found our joint relative frequencies as a ratio, a decimal, and a percentage. Now we're ready to do the same thing to find our marginal relative frequencies. So we've done the hard work. We've divided the category amount by the total amount to get the ratios, decimals, percentages. Now to find the marginal relative frequencies, remember our marginal relative frequencies are our totals. Focus on the totals. So all we need to do is add these. We just need to add add the joint relative frequencies in each column and row. So for example, if we want to find the marginal, if we want to find the marginal relative frequencies for SUVs, we're just going to add 0.2 plus 0.36, and we're going to get our total. We're not going to add the ratios. We're just going to do this for the decimals and the percentages. So when we add 0.2 plus 0.36, we get 0.56, which we know is the same thing as 56%. We're going to do the same to find the marginal relative frequency for sports cars. We're going to add this column. So 0.28 plus 0.2 or 16. So plug that in my calculator, and I get 0.44, which is the same thing as 44%. I'm going to get rid of this 25 here because we're done using that. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the marginal relative frequencies for males and females. And if you wanted to do this on your own, go ahead and click pause now. And when you're ready to check your work with mine, go ahead and click play. So we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to add 0.2 plus 0.28, which I know is 0.48, and that's the same thing as 48%. 0.36 plus 0.16, add that together and get 0.52, which is the same thing as 52%. Now, when we add in any two-way table, when we add our marginal relative frequencies, we're going to get the same amount in any table. It doesn't matter what different values and frequencies and amounts are in our tables. Anytime we add our marginal frequencies from our column totals and our row totals, we're always going to get a total of 1 when we add our decimals together, or 100% when we add our percentages together. So let's check and make sure we did this correctly. So when we add our rows, we would add 0.56 plus 0.4, and guess what we get? We get 1. And that is the same when we add our percentages together. We also get 100%, so we know we did that correctly. Same is true, 0.48 plus 52, that gives us 1. 48 plus 52% is 100%. So the totals, your marginal relative frequencies, the total totals will always, when we add our columns and rows, will always equal 1 or 100%. So just a fun fact to know. And let me ask you one question based on this two-way table. You will be answering questions about your two-way tables, whether it's joint frequencies, joint relative frequencies, marginal frequencies, or marginal relative frequencies. So the question is, what percent of the survey takers were male? So what percent of the survey takers were male? So we want to focus on the male row and the total number, more specifically the total number of males, which we have already conveniently figured out over here as a total would be 48%. 48%. And we can check our work. So how many total males were there? We found that on the 7 plus 5. 7 plus 5 is 12, and we know there's 25 people who took the survey, which works out to be 0.48 or 48%. So that is two-way tables. So again, just to review, we looked at joint frequencies, which is just the number of people that answer the survey. So marginal frequencies and joint frequencies. And then we took it a step further and we added that term relative frequencies. And when we talk about relative, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of percentages and ratios of the values in each category. So we are done. We're ready for the key phrase assignment. Let me write that up there for you. So the key phrase assignment, in your own words, explain the difference between joint frequency and marginal frequency. Directions are below if you need a reminder of how to complete the key phrase assignment. And if you need any help or have any questions this week while you're working on assignments, let me know. I'm here to help. Otherwise, have a fantastic rest of your week.